Epic views, waterfall mists, summit sunsets. It's all better outside. And with All Trails, you can discover the best of nature with over 450,000 trails around the world. Download the free app today and find your next adventure.
Hi guys, welcome to this week's episode of Heavy Metal Tones, me, your podcast, Tony Evans. This week is a little trip down memory lane to one of the greatest European power metal albums of them all, if not the founder of the movement, for a lot of people's opinions. This is as usual, a wholly, almost accurate history of the band Helloween, and then a run through the album on the other side of the program after the ads. So if you don't know who Helloween is, well, then strap yourself in, guys, because you're in for a treat. Now, I had the privilege of, as of this recording, which is the 22nd of July, to two of the three singers that have sung for the band, and at the moment in their current form, all three singers sing in the band. So I got to chat to Michael Kiske, who is the lead singer of the album we're about to talk about, which is Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1. I also got to talk to Andy Derris, also a member, one of the vocalists who came on board a little bit later and has come back, and now they're doing the three singers together, which is marvellous. So, Helloween, I thought, why not? After talking to Michael and Andy, I thought, yeah, this is something, because I first picked up Keeper of the Seven Keys on cassette, I'm thinking, because a lot of my early stuff was cassette because it was cheaper. But I remember being drawn by the cover, not knowing too much about the band. So they formed in '86. Sorry, this album was released in January '86, but the band formed in '84. Hi guys, this is Future Tony here, just cutting in to say I had missed a few things. So after listening back to it, the band was formed in Germany, in Hamburg in 1984. I also misnamed the bassist. It's Markus Grosskopf. I don't know why I think I said Michael later on, but it's Markus Grosskopf, so I apologise there. But anyway, yes, Hamburg in Germany, 1984 is when they formed. Back to the original edit. So, I sort of picked up probably about 1989, 1990, possibly around that time. And I put it on, and being a lifelong Iron Maiden fan and new wave of British heavy metal, I put it on, and it blew my mind. The technicality and the brilliance of this album just was stunning. There's one particular track which we'll talk to in part 2, which is something that is beyond whatever you can imagine. Honestly, for me anyway, it ticked all of Teenage Tony's box. All the boxes got ticked on this one particular track. Anyway, so they're considered the founders of European power metal. They're, along with bands like Iron Fist, Gentry, Second Hell, all these sort of bands. Running Wild as a Gravedigger, things like that. I personally think that is the case. I think they were creating a new sound. They were taking the sort of DIY ethic and the energy of new wave of British heavy metal, mixing it with the technicalities of almost operatic and classical, almost neoclassical pieces of music. Things like J. Malmsteen and things like that. They were sort of like bringing those together, making this sort of real, pompous, almost bombastic sound. They were very lucky that in all three singers, in Kai Hansen, Michael Kiske, and Andy Derris, they had vocals that were beyond anything that was really going on at the moment. You know, at that time, metal vocalists were really the focal point of the band a lot. You know, you had these epic screaming vocals of Rob Halford and Bruce Dickinson. So, you know, all three singers here, particularly Michael Kiske here, um, really sort of bites into that amazing vocal length and range that we don't have anymore in modern music, not in metal anyway. It all seems to have gone very much the opposite way around and got heavier. And I suppose it's probably easier to do the growling. And I'm sure it's going to offend some people, but it feels a bit that it would be easier to do that than it would be to reach the kind of notes. I mean, honestly, these three singers, Michael Kiske, Halford, and Dickinson, what have they got? They must have someone squeeze it with a pair of bellows up their bum. Some of the notes they hold are just unbelievable. But anyway, back to Helloween. So they've been around since '84. They'd released Walls of Jericho before in '85 on the 18th of November, which is their first album, and the only album to have the lead singer Kai Hansen on it. He dropped down from being lead singer and guitarist to just guitarist because on the tour previous to this Keeper of the Seven Keys, he was having troubles playing guitar and singing. You can understand why, because the vocals are demanding and the guitar is very demanding. So they had to find a new singer, and they came across an 18-year-old Michael Kiske. Now, 18-year-olds, when you listen to this album, you'll be, if you don't know that Michael was 18 at the time, you would be like, what the hell's going on? This cannot be an 18-year-old. It's so mature in its vocal delivery and its and just in its outlook. His outlook on music. When I talked to him, and it was a real privilege to talk to him. You know, he really has an amazing outlook on his craft as a vocalist and the craft of a vocalist in general. It was a real eye opener for me to talk to him about it, and also when I talked to Andy, that was another insight into the way the music is produced. But at the time, Michael was on this album. 18 years old. They recruit him to come on board after one album. And the lineup was Kai Hansen on vocals and guitar. So he didn't do vocals on this album, but he did, or maybe little tiny bits here and there, but it was mainly guitar. Then you had Grosskopf on bass. You have Michael, and I'm going to really butcher these names here, Weikhalf on guitar, and Ingo Schwitzenberg on drums. Now, very sadly, not soon after this album was released, I mean, not a few years, quite a couple of years afterwards, Ingo was replaced by due to having a mental breakdown on drums, and sadly, he took his own life. So, as I always say when I read these sort of things out, anyone who feels that they are struggling, please do reach out to any of your local charities and doctors and friends and family, because there is a better way out than that way out, as always. Anyway, I say that because this is, as I record this today, it's the anniversary of my brother's passing, and he took his own life. So I'd like just to say, miss you, Ron, love you. Anyway, and he was a big influence musically on my life. So it's really lovely to be able to say thank you to him live. Get out and make sure that you talk to people. That's it. So in comes Michael, and they go into the studio to record this particular album. Now, at the same time, this was an interesting album. Normally, the recording duties were mixed between Weikhalf. Again, I'm really saying his name absolutely wrong. It's Michael Weikhalf. Anyway, I think that's Weikhalf, maybe being German. Usually, it was mixed. They would record a lot of the stuff together. He would write guitar parts. He would write lyrics and parts. But because he was sick during the recording of this album, most of it is actually brought to us by Kai. And so it has a real solidly Kai sound. That's why Keepers of the Seven Keys Part 2 is a lot more modern and a lot more direct. I think that Kai's direction on this album is a nod back to the past and a look at, and he brings in lots of different genres to create this album. Now, Michael did do parts on this, but just not much, only a couple of bits and pieces. So, they've had 16 studio albums. They've got 5 live albums, 3 EPs, 31 singles, and they've sold over 10 million records. They also, like Iron Maiden, have a very, very recognizable mascot in their pumpkin head, right? He is such a he's like Eddie. Once you see it, it's always there. Even on the new album that's coming out that I have interviewed Michael over, Giants and Monsters, even that on the cover, even though it's not a typical Helloween cartoony kind of speed metal, power metal kind of cover, you can still see the hallmarks of the pumpkin head there. And here they really bite into this particular. I think it's where it all starts, really. I mean, I know he's on the original cover of the first album, but here is who really starts to come into his own and become the image that we all know of Helloween. So it's a for me, a lot of people say, where do you start when you're listening to Helloween? Obviously you can listen to the first album. No problem with that, right? No problem with that. I think really it starts to come into its own here when we get Michael Kiske on vocals and Kai steps back to guitar and focuses on that, because this is where the full drama, power, and majesty of true European power metal comes in. Now, those that don't know, I should have said before, you might say to me, I've been listening to this for the last 11 minutes. I don't even know what power metal is. I've just jumped into this podcast. I don't know. Well, so power metal is, it's a very difficult genre to explain. It's basically very dramatic. It says power. It's got a lot of high demanding vocal lines. It's fast. It's usually quite complex in its motifs. It's dominated by imageries of knights and dragons, and the most obvious band that most people will know of now is Dragon Force. So Dragon Force is the band where, who really sort of cemented the power metal genre. But this is the European power metal, I might add. I mean, obviously in America, it's Manowar. The biggest, the biggest power metal name of all is Manowar. But in Europe, there's a particular way that Europeans make power metal, particular way. And when you hear it, like Gamma Ray and Helloween, and like I said, Running Wild, you hear it and you go, yeah, I get it. This sounds it has a Euro-esque feel to it. In fact, this album itself sometimes even has some Candlemassy doomy aspects to it. There's a sort of fun and, as I said, pomposity, bombacity, if that's a term. It has a real tongue-in-cheek moments to itself. When you watch them live, they're not out there. They're not giving you some social message. They're not trying to change the world. Talking to Andy and Michael about it, they just want to make people move, dance. They want to make music. They want to make fun. Jump out of your everyday ho-hum life. Sometimes there is a much needed place for music that just takes you away. It's why pop music dominates the world charts. It's why heavy rock and metal and rock and roll in general doesn't, because sometimes we take ourselves far too seriously. Whereas, pop music, you've had a bad day at work, you split up with your girlfriend / boyfriend, you're just not having a great time in life. You've argued with your mum and dad or whatever. Your boss is a dick. You got no money. You got bills to pay. All that kind of crap. Sometimes you just want to put on a bit and say something like ABBA or if you're into it, Britney Spears or whatever your flavor of pop is, because it's just going to fill your head with memorable tunes, which keep you away from the dark thoughts that might be there. And so that's what I think bands like Helloween do for us. They take away those thoughts in some respect, that you put them on and you fall away into a world of imagination, of soaring, dramatic vocals, of sort of how do I say it, Conan the Barbarian-esque characters, and nothing is taken too seriously. We're not reinventing the wheel with this kind of music. It's not going to, as I said, you're not rewriting Beowulf for this is not. It is very technical, extremely technical music. This isn't people that don't know what they're doing. This band have, right from the bass to the drums to the guitar to the vocals, the synths, the textures they put in, the little bits of pieces of drama and sampling. This is a very, very, very technical band, but it's not. It's there like Maiden. It's not there to teach. Same like Priest. It's an era of metal when we wasn't all so serious. And sometimes when I look on the music that I listen to, and if I look at the music I listen to throughout the week, for instance, 90% of it's really serious. There's so much seriousness to it, messages and ethos and all this kind of stuff. It's just sometimes good to put on an album and let you park your brain, park your memories, and go on this fast and furious journey for 37 minutes like this album does. Now, originally, the band wanted to release Part 1 and Part 2 as a double album, as they considered both 1 and 2 a concept album, which is something, I haven't talked about before. Even though I said park your brain and don't, it's not deep and meaningful, it still has an underwriting story. It's the story. So this is about Nostradamus and some of his predictions that run through the lyrical theme very loosely, I think, and that's why they wanted it Part 1 and 2. That's why they wanted a double album. But the label refused them to do so, which I'm quite happy about that actually. So early on in a band's career, second album to be a double album is a big ask. You're asking the audience and the punters buying the records to fork out. It will be double the price because it has to be, and it has to really hold your attention to get you through those two albums. And they're so dramatically different, Part 1 and Part 2, even though they're not recorded that far apart. They are very different in their outlook and their technique. So it would be a bit jarring, I think, having it in a double album. It wouldn't flow as well. So here it is a good idea to go, separate. So I don't mind this one. Okay, it's if you want a sing-along album, this is the one to come. If you want a jaunty, fast expression of early metal and how the Europeans looked upon it. I mean, it has real kind of Kiss vibes as well, because I know a lot of the band are big Kiss fans, and they're not trying to scare the pants off you like Venom was, or Bathory at the time, or any of those sort of real heavy dark bands. They were just out to have fun, but maybe with a slightly sort of scary, tongue-in-cheek, character out there. Helloween, play on the words of Halloween and Helloween. It's a really interesting look on outtake on it, really. So I'm reviewing. Pardon me. I'm going to review the classic album, not the special edition, not the extras, nothing. Just the vinyl that I have. So it's two sides, obviously. First side is I'm Alive, A Little Thing, and then Twilight of the Gods, and a tale that wasn't right. Then we flip it over, and we get Future World, Helloween, and Follow the Sign. A shorter side on the B side because there's one very long track in it, which we'll get to when we chat to about in a few minutes' time after the ads. So I knocked the mic. But I don't know why I said that. Anyway, it's 37 minutes of pure imagination. It is a visual album, even more than it is a audio album, because when you put it on, your mind, if you're like me, floods with images and colors and textures and movement. It's such a fun, interesting outing, and to be honest, probably their best album they've ever made. And they've made a lot of albums. It's 16 albums, as I said. I still think Keeper of the Seven Keys is a point where the band were at their very best. They peak it slightly in part 2, but only in certain points, and all because of one track that sits on this album. I won't tell you what it is right now because I want you to come back to the other side and listen to hear which one it is. It'd be interesting to know which one you think it is. I'm sure you're going to get it right. If you know me well enough, you're going to get it right. Anyway, that is a brief history of a very amazing band and a brief history of a very amazing album. We will now have some breaks and come back to talk about the album in full. That is Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1 by Helloween. Bye for now.
Epic views, waterfall mists, summit sunsets. It's all better outside. And with All Trails, you can discover the best of nature with over 450,000 trails around the world. Download the free app today and find your next adventure.
Welcome back after those ads. If you wish to listen to my show ad-free, well, for $2 a month, you can go to Patreon. That's patreon.com/heavy metal tones. And that will give you ad-free shows. Some early. I'm trying to get them out early, but it's just getting everything in my life together. I do so much. Anyway, one day I'll be able to get the stuff out early so you can get it before everyone else. There are some extra stuff on there as well. I'm a bit behind on putting stuff up, but I'll get there. Anyway, this is part 2 of the look at the Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1 by Helloween, the premiere and possibly the greatest power/speed metal band of them all. Now, as we said before, this is the sort of first incantation of the... Is that the right word, incantation? No, that's the wrong word. I can't remember the word. I can't think of the word. Not incantation. You know what I mean. This is the first lineup as such, where the band itself, it's only had one change where Michael Kisker's come in for vocals. Okay. Itself, the band, as I probably didn't mention in the first half because, you know, I had so much else to do, think about was we've got Kai Hansen on guitar. We got Marius Grosskopf on bass, Michael Wiekeif, as I said, Wiekeif on guitar, and Ingo Schwitzenberg, sadly, not with us anymore, on drums. As this is a concept album, as I mentioned before on the first side, the album cover itself denotes the story. The concept behind the lyrics in the album is loosely the prophecies of Nostradamus. It's funny how this band does it and everyone hails it. Judas Priest does a full concept album on Nostradamus, and I've covered it because it's one of my favourite albums of theirs, and it gets absolutely pulled apart. It's very interesting. Anyway, the album itself the artwork is very proto Helloween because we haven't got the pumpkin just as yet in full force. It's in the logo, but it's it looks like a wizard in a tower behind him in the distance is mountains and water, and he's holding a globe, a clear glass globe, and inside it's 7 keys, as in Keeper of the 7 Keys. And in the background, in the doorway, in the dark, if you don't look carefully enough, there's the demons and creatures of the night lurking and watching. And the hood itself to the wizard is black, but full of space and stars. So it is all about infinite possibilities and the future telling of the. And personally, as I said before, and I'll say it again, I don't hear the connection in that stories, because lyrically, when I listen to it, I'm not listening to it as a concept album. Even though I bloody love concept albums, and that is the truth, I listen to it just as a bit of escapism. And to be fair, I think that's mostly how we listen to it. As I said, it starts off with Initiation, which is a nice, jaunty piece of music. Jaunty is the wrong word, I suppose. It's quite dramatic. It has that sort of pomposity, that sort of Bohemian Rhapsody, that sort of Maiden-esque sound. It's like the better end of the new wave of British heavy metal, which is what I think really, as I said, I think this band does so well. It's only 1 minute 20, so it's not a long number by any means, but it does bring you in very sharply and very quickly into I'm Alive, which is, again, fast, classical, very Malmsteen-esque, very King Crimson. The vocals. This is a track saying, "Hey guys, this is our new singer. Listen to what he can do." It's a real sort of call to arms for Michael's vocal lines. At being 18 years old, as I said, what were you doing at 18? And I wasn't reaching those kind of notes, let me tell you. I also didn't have the balls to be doing that kind of thing, literally, if you know what I mean. Anyway, such a nice guy. But it's a great way of bringing us into the album. But then we sort of move onto A Little Time, which is the first track written by Michael for the album and for the band, I think. It's penned by Michael at 18. Again, not only is he singing vocals like no one quite like him on the planet at the time, there's only very few that are, he's also writing songs, very much in the sort of flamboyance of the bigger Nuoban bands, the bigger European acts. Very much, I hear Scorpions in this quite a bit, and Accept, and bands like that are sort of Euro bands that were really big at the time. There's almost a bit of Metallica in there as well. It really has quite a depth. It's showing the band's musicality off quite well, and it's interesting that it's all mainly written by one person. So I think because it's written by one person, the universality of the tracks and the tonality of it is really, really nice, because it's kept singularly in one direction, one focus, and I think that also makes this album something special. It has, here again, dramatically, they're using sound effects. You've got ticking clocks that comes in with A Little Time as a theme. It's got echoes, reverse vocals. It's got an alarm bell that suddenly rings and then breaks you that sort of nightmarish fever dream you're having for a few seconds and gets you straight back into a guitar solo. Is this about Nostradamus' future, telling the future? Might be. It might be about his predicting the Second World War and the rise of Nazis and Hitler and so on. Who knows? Great track for an 18-year-old to write and to be part of. Just real fun and movement. And then we get Twilight of the Gods. Now this sounds really power metal-y. This has all of the power metal boxes ticked. It's got the gallop, it's got the breathtaking drums, it's got the soaring vocals, it's got guitar which goes from rhythm to classical to tapping to extreme arpeggios to palm muting, you name it, it does it all. It's all in this one. It's all exactly blistering as the whole album. It's actually one of the fastest tracks on the album. I don't think Dragon Force have got anything on this. I think, people think that Dragon Force was the fastest band, but they were doing it with the year 2000's technologies. This is 1986. It's a whole different ball game. This is all analog. They're hitting that. They're hitting this and getting this as crisp and clean as they can. Probably through a Neve desk. They're not using great big Fairlight computers and stuff because they were far too expensive. So this has all the vocal gymnastics, all the guitar fireworks, everything you want on here. It's breathtaking drums. The only thing that I will say negative about the whole album is I think I would like the drums mixed heavier. They do sometimes feel washed and too far back in the mix. That's the only negative that I'm going to give you on this album. I would like to hear it again. Yeah, I don't know if there's a special edition where the drums have been remixed, but it just feels that Ingo's drums could have been a little bit more crisp. They're a little soft in areas, but again, this is the only negative I've got for it. But Twilight of the Gods, yeah, fantastic. Pure power metal. Pure power metal. It is 101. It is Man of War meets King Diamond meets Iron Maiden meets Malmsteen. It's sort of a brilliant mishmash of all those fantastic styles that we love. There's also even a little sort of like a little bit of Messiah Marcolin's vocals from Candlemass in there as well. A little bit of that doominess to it, which I don't think you genuinely normally associate with a power metal album, right? And then we get A Tale That Wasn't Right. So this is the end of side. No, it's not the end of. Is it the end of side? Nope. Yes, it is the end of side 1. A Tale That Wasn't Right. Now this is a time to take your breath. Now I talked to Andy, the later one of the singers of the band now, who came in later recently, and he was saying that the speed at where they were going in all these albums, you need that moment where you can take a breath as an audience member and let yourself calm down, your heart calm down a bit, and enjoy some music before it goes batshit crazy again. And A Tale That Wasn't Right is that. It opens up with some sort of classical guitar. It's certainly not a ballad. I don't like the term ballad. It's still very heavy, but it's sort of a speed and heaviness that lets you sort of take your breath and relax. It's almost radio friendly, and I really don't like those terms. But this is a point where Michael's vocals, you suddenly can hear that he can do more than just glass shattering, ball splitting, eardrum destroying screams. He can do all that lovely nuance and texture in the lower vocal range. It's beautiful. It's got a real epic mix. It's still bombastic as well. Of all power metal, it still has that drama and operatic feel to it. But the solo reminds me, actually, when I was listening to the solo in this, it reminds me of listening to Gary Moore, the latter Gary Moore, sort of Still Got the Blues, Corridors of Power, so on. That's a sort of that time as a real bluesy guitar solo, but still dirty and aggressive and fast, but crisp at the same time. This is actually one of my favorite tracks on the album. It's not the favorite track on the album, but it's one of my favorite tracks because I really enjoy the contrast. I like the come down, the sweep from the top of the roller coaster down to the bottom and along the flat, where you can sort of breathe for a bit before it takes off again. All right. And then we flip the record over. We get Future World, which is the single off of the album, the only single off the album. This, it almost sounds like a separate album, a different album. It doesn't even, to me, doesn't even sound, it's But the previous side was all rounded sounds and even though it's fast and loud, quite soft tones. This is sort of angular and digital almost, sort of synth almost. Basically, I mean, they've grabbed the lyric of Future World, the title, and they've really run with it. It's quite a different vibe. It's much cleaner. It's much clearer mixed. The vocals here are very much they're very sing along. It's very, you could see how this would become the single off the album. There's lots of real stark palm muting, so they're really bringing the guitar back underneath the angularity of the concept and the music. It does have a bit of a seventh son of a seventh son, even though it's before then. It has that kind of latter maiden feel. It's sort of, somewhere in time-esque. I love the sound effects. I love the concept of telling, again, Nostradamus' future telling, because he was a soothsayer, wasn't he? He gives good sooth. Those that are Mel Brooks fans will know what that means. The bass is really nice in this, because where the solo is going one way, the bass is going another. And as a member of the Bass Players Union, I actually love that it's almost completely incongruous. It's not really playing along with the drums, and it's not really sitting under the guitar one octave below going, okay, whatever the guitarist is playing, I'm playing. It feels like it's going on a different pattern, and I think that itself, A, is difficult to do, but also, B, adds a dimension to the song that you don't really get in other tracks very similar to this. It's very, very sing-along. I love the chorus on it. Again, this angularity in it, this cold, almost steel-like tension that it puts into the music is it's almost it's weird, because if you bought this as a single and then you played it and then bought the album, it almost feels like it's not meant to be on this album, because you go from a tale that wasn't right, and then you move on to one of the best tracks ever written in a power metal genre, or actually one of the best heavy metal tracks ever written, full stop, alongside Rime of the Ancient Mariner. This is one of the greatest of them all. It sort of sits before that in a semi-incongruous and unusual manner and way, but in a way that sticks out to me a bit antiseptic wise, but I quite like it, because I think this track would have seemed to be sitting better on part 2, and some of the tracks, there's a particular track on part 2 which I think would have been better on part 1. But obviously the story itself, it has to follow with the story that the band is creating. I'll let you work yourself out what story that is. But it's a really great track. It's certainly not something that you would skip. In fact, you probably look forward to it when you turn the record over, because it is a really catchy and probably one of the best numbers of the era, really. One of the best numbers on the album. As I said, slightly incongruous, slightly angular, but that's probably just what my crazy mind, because I see music in shape, so it's probably the way I'm seeing it, and it may not be the way you see it. But we follow on to an epic 13 minutes and 18 seconds long track, and this sits really quite dramatically in the same oeuvre and canon as said Rime in the Ancient Mariner. Very Alexander the Great and so on. It's very rarely does a band produce a song that straddles all sorts of concepts, time signatures, motifs. It's just a brilliant piece of music, even if you took out any of the conceptual ideas or the lyrics or whatever. This is Helloween, so a self-titled track. There's one other self-titled track that sits up there for me, and that is Iron Maiden's Iron Maiden and Motorhead's Motorhead. There are not many that really are as iconic as this. It's a long track. Is it progressive? Just because it's 13 minutes and 18 seconds long doesn't mean it's progressive. It's very churlish of me to just say that all music that's over a certain length is progressive, because that is absolute load of bollocks. Pardon my French. It just because it's long does not mean it's progressive. A long piece of music just means that it's an interesting piece of music they could not squeeze into 4 minutes or whatever the album dictates. 13 minutes is what it took. It's what the song told it to take. It's the dimensions and the level of time that this particular piece of music had to be in. Any shorter, I think it would be ruined. It's again really great sing along. It's got one of the best choruses. I absolutely love the way that Michael enunciates and moves through the lyrical concepts of this particular song. So it's set in a fictional world of Helloween. It's set in the travels around that town during Helloween, I believe. I could be wrong. And it's just this, the lyric, watch out, beware. It's just like the way that it's spoken almost. It breaks that little bit pre-chorus. When it breaks in, you almost can't wait for that bit to turn up. Then there are astounding, amazing guitar solos in it. The time signature changes in it are just a thing of beauty. Yes, I feel that part of it is progressive, and it has a progressive feel, but it's not technically a progressive song because it's not really breaking a lot of ground. Songs like this had already been done before, long pieces of music. This is certainly not the first time. I'd say being 86 is still 4 years away. I mean, it's around the same time, maybe a year later, than Rime and the Ancient Mariner. So you can see influences there ever so slightly. But I think it's just a romp, a dynamic, pompous, operatic, fun, dark and textured romp through a fictional land. They're creating their own history, their own legends by making this song. And it's just one of the very best tracks. If you were making a top 10 of the most iconic heavy metal tracks, and you had to put yourself in that position to make that list, this is going to be on them. I think if you are turning around and saying, oh, no, it shouldn't, I don't know why, then I think I'd like to hear a good reason why you think it's not, because it's ambitious. Certainly ambitious second album, right? It's ambitious. It's entertaining. It's got a catchy chorus. It's well made. The drums are a bit thin, but I said that before. The bass is has a beautiful walking bass line, which I really like. The guitars don't let you down in both rhythm and lead. And Michael's vocals, they go from that, as I said before, that lows that you get in A Tale That Wasn't Right, to the highs of Future World and the opening tracks on the album, like I'm Alive. You have it all in here. It's like, this is a showcase. It's like, right, the band went, right, this is what we're going to do, a song where we'll show everyone in the world that we can do what we can do. And here it is. And it's one of those ones that even after 13 minutes, you're like, you sure there's not more? You sure there's not more coming? Where is the rest of it? I'd like some more. There's a point where you don't, like Rime the Ancient Mariner, very much like Genesis' Supper's Ready, which is 27 minutes long, like Marillion's Grendel, which is 22 minutes long. There are points where you go, sure there's not more? Because you're just taken on this fantastic journey. It's like you like licking the plate clean. When a meal is so delicious that you want to lick the plate clean. This is how it feels when you get to the end of Helloween for me. You like, really? I want more, because it chops and changes, and it's got directional differences. The lyric is not complex, and it repeats itself regularly, but the actual tonality of the song is just brilliant. Like Rhyme the Ancient Mariner, that takes you on this journey technically, texturally, emotionally, conceptually. This does exactly the same as that. For me. It's not the same as Rhyme. Rhyme is my favorite. Everyone will know that, I'm sure, but it certainly sits up there as one of the greatest of them all. And for a young band, second album in, this is just outrageous, like outrageous, that they could firstly, the record label would let them do it, and secondly, they just had the forthright and verve to actually make it. This song makes the album for me. It makes, when I remember the very first time I heard it, when I put that tape on and I got to it, and it ticked all of 17, 18-year-old Tony's boxes. Every box ticked. It was progressive. At that time, I considered it progressive. It had, soaring. It was just everything that I wanted, because I had been going through a heavy Maiden-esque phase, listening to Power Slave ad nauseum. So when I put this one on, it was a real easily a compliment. So I could listen to Power Slave followed by Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1 and not feel that it was too jarring. I could even go from that to The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway quite easily in a day, and it would flow beautifully. I'm not trying to say that this is in any way a progressive album. It's not. It's conceptual, yes, and I say loosely it's conceptual, but this track is just something very, very special that you don't get much more anymore. And when you do get it, and occasionally I have come across some bands recently that are doing this kind of music, it really pricks your ears up, makes you look up and take notice, because this is something unusual in the world of modern music, and the noise and slush and to and fro and the flotsam and jetsam of the world in world music. It's really interesting to see young bands doing things that won't genuinely be considered commercial, because we all live for the almighty dollar. Unfortunately, this is by no way a commercial track, but it should be. I reckon you couldn't make a single out of it, but you could probably put it on. I don't know if it has been. I'm not sure. Put it on the B side of a 12-inch. Play the whole lot through. How amazing would that be? Anyway, once you've gone through your journey of the town of Helloween, and you've had this brilliant, addictive song play through your lug holes, it's time to finish the album. And sadly, it is, isn't it? We have to finish the album. They can't go forever. And we end like we started, with a 1-minute 40 track called Follow the Sign. And it is very new wave of British heavy metal. There's gallops. There's great guitar feel and motion. It's just a real fun way, an epic way to end an epic album. Because there's no way you could end it on right. There's no way, in my opinion, you could end it on Helloween. You needed a little outro, a little something different, a little show-off moment, a little aperitif, as they say, or a little moose-bouche, whatever the bloody, cordon bleu term is. One of those things. You want something to clean the palate, to refresh yourself as you go out, and Follow the Sign is it. I mean, a lot of these titles, apart from Helloween, do point towards a Nostradamus-esque kind of concepts now, when I really do think about it. But I'm more inclined to just enjoy this album track for track and not try and work out a story in it. And that might, to the band's chagrin, I don't know, and hardcore fans, but for me, it's just about enjoying the album's tracks as they go. If one time I sit down on it and a concept, and I'm looking for a concept and I want it, then I'll hear it. But at the moment, I just enjoy track for track. It's a brilliant album. As I said, I highly recommend listening to the original album first, and then maybe the special editions and all the add-ons and all the extra bits that you get on streaming platforms. I won't go over about that again. You know how I feel about that. It's a point of contention with me. I just want the original album, please. I don't want all the extras. Can I just get the original one? And then can I get the special edition? Because I'll listen to it afterwards and hear what it sounds like once it's been tweaked. I think it's unfair for an audience to get a tweaked album and not get the original one, because I want to see it. It's like seeing a black and white film that's been coloured and having no coloured black and white, no black and white print left. All you've got is this terrible coloured print. And it happens, unfortunately, particularly in a lot of silent movies. Anyway, end on a high. Brilliant album. Well worth the listen. Michael was a great guy to talk to. I really loved talking to him. Andy also was a real bonus to chat to as well. They are out and about, still touring. All three singers are still singing in the band, which is amazing. What an experience. The new album comes out very soon in August, and I think you're going to really love that. Giants and Monsters. I've listened to it and I think it's an absolute cracker. Does it hold up to Keeper of the Seven Keys? No, it's a whole different thing. But I do love Keeper of the Seven Keys, as you might have gathered. I will be doing Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 2 in a few weeks' time. So hopefully you'll listen to this one a few times, and then when we get to Part 2, you can really appreciate Part 2 of this epic 2-part album. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed it. I loved it. Loved every minute, as I always do. Talk to you next week. Keep safe, and remember, like and subscribe. And if you're on Spotify, swipe up and leave me a review. Doesn't matter if it's 1 star or 5 stars. Of course, 1 star will hurt. That's fine, but 5 stars will make my day. The more people that swipe up and give me a review, the more Spotify reach I get. And as we know, Spotify is the biggest platform, so it pays for me to get that. I'm also on YouTube, and I also have, as I said before, Patreon. So please do pop by and see me, listen to me. And if you really want to, I'm also on TikTok as well. I'm only on there once a week to promote the episode, but I try and do little bits and pieces outside of that as well. It might be nice to put a face to a voice every now and again for you. I know I like doing that myself. Anyway, ramble on. About to go. I've got to go and edit some videos for my peruse. They'll be up soon as well. We've got food reviews that we'll do this afternoon. So, busy at the moment. Bye for now. See you next week. Bye-bye.